Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine Cristani with another episode of Willow Healing Matters, and I am joined today by Massimo, and he is a serial entrepreneur from Nebraska's heartland who spent too much time in Hollywood's wild parties. This man's life reads like a script too unbelievable for TV. A confidential recovery specialist, he turned his rock bottom into a rock solid memoir, Flavors of Confidence. His S.O.B.E.R method. It's like Stoicism met a life coach at a bar and decided to save the world, confident flavor at a time. Now, when he's not inspiring souls, Massimo might be found figure skating competitively. Because life's a journey, he's driving with windows down and his volume up. So big welcome to the show, Massimo.
I hope you enjoyed my fun little intro there. I decided to have a little fun with it today.
Why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it funny that I'm so curious about that you're a professional figure skater, but I will go into the S.O.B.E.R method. How did that even come about?
Well, I tell you, a lot of people are really interested in that. So here I am. I'm 46 years old. This is almost, I was 47 at the time. So this is three years ago. And I was like, you know what? I've got to stay in shape. I had just watched my father pass away, and he wasn't even 70 years old yet. And he's 68. I'm thinking, okay, this is not going to be me. I've got to find a way. And I've seen over time, so many of my loved ones, they lose the use of their legs. They can't walk, their strength, and that's it. And although I was, I walked a lot or whatever, I wasn't in really good physical shape. I'm like, what can I do that I would enjoy and have some competitive edge so I would stick with it to try to push myself further and further and further. And I don't like being hot. So like cycling was out, running was out. I'm just not going to do that. I'm like, figure skating, that could be interesting. So I went and I learned to skate, and I was like, maybe I'll play hockey. So I tried that and I got beat up. And after my first game, this guy comes to me and goes, you probably should be a figure skater. And I was like, figure skating? He goes, yeah. He goes, I think you got some natural skating talent. You should try it. So I went and changed my skates, and I, threw everything into it. And now I compete at bronze level adult,
Wow.
which I'm like pushing right now up against getting my axle. Hopefully I'll nail that here in the next 6 to 8 months. It's a lot of work. And, I have really slimmed down. I lost 40 pounds. And I'm in the best health of my life, believe it or not. I went and my most recent physical, my doctor, who I've been seeing since I was 16, he says, I don't know how to tell you this, but you're in better shape now than you were when you're in high school. I was like, okay, I'll take that.
Amazing. But I also love the drive there, right? Like you were like, okay, I want to live. And then you're like, how am I going to change this? And I feel this leads beautifully into your story of how you've created the S.O.B.E.R. Do you call it so? I'm assuming you call it the S.O.B.E.R method. Great. This, because I'm like, if I have to say that the whole interview, the S.O.B.E.R, we're going to be here all day.
It's abbreviated with periods just so people know that it's, it actually stands for something, as opposed to if you call it the S.O.B.E.R method. They're like, oh, well, I need to sober up. But, not realizing that sober actually has 5 steps, which are stoic, observe, behavior, execute, and restore. And it's a continuous improvement program that works on the Deming cycle. For those of you not familiar, Deming was a doctor that went over to Japan after World War II and helped with manufacturing. He's the one who set up the continuous improvement. His whole belief and theory is that you would look at things, you would correct them in small measurable steps until they were perfected. So I got the crazy idea that maybe I could do the same thing with my mind. And so I created the S.O.B.E.R method based on that premise, that I could pick something out that was challenging for me in my sobriety. I could work on that by observing how it presented itself in the real world, remap a behavior, then test it by actually executing, like going out into the real world and saying, I'm going to put myself in this scenario and test out whether or not my new method for for changing my behavior will work and I won't feel triggered to drink. And if I do feel triggered, well, I go back to the, workshop and I nail out another proposal on how I might make that work and then try it again. Once I got it down, then it's the restoration step where I look at how have I been impacting the world with my negative feedback to it. And this is the kind of the natural forgiveness stage where I go and I make amends with those that I may have hurt with this behavior in the past. Then I go back to the beginning and start over and remap a behavior again. And I just currently on my 151st pass through my own program. And I tell you, as you get deeper and deeper and deeper into it, it is like I'm in minutia now of actually correcting smaller and smaller things about myself.
And I feel that's such an important reflection because often we don't realize that healing is multi-leveled, and it's,
oh yeah.
And, even though you think you're okay, then something else will trigger it and something else will trigger it until you actually get to the root cause of what started the behavior in the first place and what started that creation of what's happening around you. Because a lot of people like to blame everything else rather than actually looking on the inside and coming back to yourself. And I really like that you brought that out too, that you were, saying that, you look at the external trigger, but then you actually go within to see where that's coming from, because so often people get stuck in that victim mindset, right? And then they just want to find everything else to blame rather than taking responsibility.
Yes, exactly. And you had a recent guest, I think it may have been one of your most recent released podcasts, Justin, I think was his name.
Yes, Justin L. Shaw. Yeah, Awaken the Sorcerer. Yeah.
Yes. I thought the Awaken the Sorcerer was so interesting. And it was a similar type of situation that Justin had, in the fact that I was going to AA, I was sober, but so this is it. I'm going to just sit here and come to meetings twice a week and talk about what used to be. And I'll tell you right now, that was a trigger for me, because I started talking about, oh yeah, and then at this party it was with, and you start telling those stories and you leave there going, oh, that wasn't that bad, was it? That was kind of fun. Maybe I should go have a drink and meet some new people. That's the wrong thing you want to be leaving with. And so I had to find something that was going to incrementally improve myself, as opposed to just remaining sober. And I'm not saying that AA is bad. It could be good for some people. I have friends actually who know everything there is to know about my method, because they have to hear about it all the time, that go to AA and refuse to change because it works for them. And they also are the types that don't necessarily want to improve. They're happy with where they're at. They're just, that's fine. And everybody, this plan can meet you where you are as well. It just really has that underlying, you want to improve yourself over the long haul and be the best possible version of yourself, then sober is definitely the plan for you, because that's what it's driven to do. And the underlying component, and Justin brought this up as well, and I thought that it's very relatable, is when you lean into the Christian element of the plan, it's very off-putting for a lot of people. And since my method leans into Stoicism, it doesn't have that it's off-putting to some people. Even though I'm personally a Catholic, it doesn't mean that everyone is, or that believes the same things I do. So this allows it to be open to everyone, but lean into an ancient philosophy that frames up looking and reflecting upon oneself. So I think that that's a huge benefit to the sober method.
And when you say Stoicism, what do you mean by that? I feel that's an important distinction.
Yeah, exactly. So in the case of how we're using Stoicism, because of course this is a huge thing, Stoicism just kind of popped onto the scene actually after the sober method came into existence. It's like, oh, that's really interesting. Everybody's talking about being stoic all of a sudden. But I always have those who use the method start with Marcus Aurelius's meditations and looking through the passages and then applying those and reflecting upon them within their own life. Like, how does this apply to me, and where does this impact me in my sobriety? And really looking at the dichotomy of control is of course very important, which again, this is in AA, but it's not talked about as being anything that's actually a Stoic philosophy. Is like you can only focus on the things that you're in control of, and everything else you should just let by the wayside. You can absolutely not change certain things, so you shouldn't worry about them, which is a huge push in anxiety, which so many people have today. I mean, we worry about things that we have literally no control over. So, and then that drives us into doing all sorts of things that are just silly. I mean, for lack of a better term. I mean, and it gets us in this mindset where I think it just arrests our development overall. And you don't have to be someone who is addicted to have this horrible anxiety. Though I might argue that a lot of the anxiety comes from device addiction, which is an entirely different topic.
Yeah, and it's such an important thing that you mentioned that too, because there's this meme that keeps popping up, and my husband sent it to me as well, and it's about sometimes we're meant to be disconnected, like we're not meant to know every tragedy happening in the world because we never were brought up that way. We weren't designed that way as humans, and like you said, you can't do things about it all the time either. Like, the best sometimes you can do is send your prayers or your well wishes and then let it go. But, letting that anxiety cripple you and then being addicted to that, I think we all saw that in the last, few years, if not longer. How, it's funny because I don't watch TV. I don't listen to the radio. I really control my narrative. And I was so happy during the lockdown years. And my clients are like, how can you be so happy? And I'm like, I can fix that for you. Don't watch TV. And they're like, what? I said, it honestly has nothing. Don't worry about it. They're like, what? And this was the thing, like if you can step back and stay, like you said, that anxiety is created because it's the fear and the worry about not what's happening. The only thing you can ever control is yourself. The only thing you can ever change is yourself. So if you work on you and work on yourself, then it will have ripple effects out into the world, which is the amazing thing. We've got the butterfly effect and everything like that. You change, people around you change because you inspire them into action, which is really positive in itself. But we're not meant to worry about all those things. And, like you said, you've gone through your program 151 times, which is amazing because you just want to keep getting better and live the best version of your life that you can possibly can.
Yes, absolutely. One thing that it has been helpful in this is that I'm lucky enough. I've got a 93-year-old grandmother, and every morning I go over to her house and I make her breakfast, and we have breakfast together. And it's probably I've been doing this now for 3 years, and it's one of the greatest gifts I've been given at the end of her life, because it's allowed me to look at the world before media was so infiltrated. Being born in 32, she has a totally different view of all of the stuff that we're bombarded with every day, and talking about how things would happen during World War II and they wouldn't hear about it immediately because the paper wouldn't arrive. She grew up in a house that didn't have electricity and didn't even have a bathroom indoors until she was in high school. It's just, for me to fathom that, it's nearly impossible when you look at today's world in Western culture. It's just, how could you not have a bathroom growing up? I can't even imagine such a thing. And so that view grounds me a lot, because oftentimes I'll ask her, what do you think about this? And she goes, I don't know. What are you talking about? She's not informed because she reads all the time. She's not driven to sit there and watch television all day long. She actually is continuing to broaden her own mind even at her age. And I think that that's fantastic. It inspires me, actually.
I can so resonate with this, right? Like my nono, my grandfather, until he passed away, before he got unwell, he was still like at home and cooking and everything like that, and had his veggie garden, like, in his 80s. And it was so funny. We went over there one day and he goes, I was watching the cooking channel and they made stock. And I thought, I can do that too. So he stopped buying stock and he started making his own stock. Nice. And, and it was so beautiful. But when he passed, my husband actually said so much wisdom passed with him. And, so often we forget how much wisdom our grandparents do have and how much they carry, and that we can learn so much from them. And sometimes those old remedies, are actually the most powerful ones too.
Yes. And that touches on something that I've done over the last 18 months now is I have almost completely moved off processed foods. And I cannot stress enough to everybody who asks me, like, how did you do it? Well, I did it kind of like the S.O.B.E.R method. I did it one very little step at a time. And it started out by, okay, I'm going to start baking my own bread. Oh, that seems like a lot of work. It really isn't a lot of work. I mean, if you can, knead some dough and then walk away for an hour while it's in the oven, anybody can make bread. It's not difficult.
So you don't make
that
sourdough.
was step one.
Okay, that's
I do make sourdough now. Yeah, but when I started just with white bread. But now it's like, now I've got that whole side thing going where, you have other people that make sourdough around you and you're like comparing, your different starters. Like, I kind of like the flavor in that. What did you do? So
what did you feed your culture?
Yes, what did you feed your culture? I mean, so you learn entirely new things, but that was that first step in that journey. And over time, it's just like, I wonder if I could make that. I wonder if I could make ketchup. I wonder if I could make, it just everything down the line until one day it's like, I look and I don't even really have anything processed anymore in my refrigerator.
Amazing.
It's just a collection of ball jars with marker on the top of what it is.
I love this. I love this so much. I bake. I'm a mad baker, but bread and me are not friends yet.
It takes so much effort. Sourdough is like, it is an art. It is an art. I can't stress that enough.
But it's funny because I was like, God, I want a hummingbird cake. So I made a hummingbird cake, and I don't use sugar. So I swapped, because my son was always sensitive to sugar from a very young age. So we swap out sugar for maple syrup and honey. Like that's what we use instead, right? And people cannot tell the difference. People actually like go, what is in this? It's amazing. I'm like, maple syrup and honey. And they're like, oh. And I was like, yeah, it's completely sugar-free. And it's really interesting when you start to bring back from the processed food. Like you said, it's one little step at a time. So for me, when I learned about it all, I started by going through the cupboard and taking away anything with numbers, which wiped out a chunk of the cupboard. And then I did all the artificial chemicals, and then I did all my makeup, and then I did, and you just start one step at a time, because truly we're meant to be living as close to nature as we can. That's how our bodies are designed. And when you actually look at a supermarket and look at the percentage of where you should be buying from, where I say should be buying from, but it's only like 10% of the store, like really.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we popped in today to grab a couple of things, and we go to the fruit and veggie aisle, and then we went to the meat bit, and then we got a little bit of dairy, and then we're out. Like everything else got missed. It's actually a really quick shopping journey because you only spend all your time in one section.
Actually, it's kind of like going around the edge of the store is what I've noticed. You don't go down any aisles anymore. It's like you walk in, you get your produce, you go by the meat counter, you hit the dairy, and you're out the door. And that's all on the edge of the store in most places.
I love it. I love it so much. So I feel to ask, you've done all this. All this has come into, you were choosing to improve your life, right? Because it's like, I want to live a better life, skating, changing your diet, getting rid of processed food, and then creating the S.O.B.E.R method. Who would you recommend this to? Who are the people that normally gravitate to you to come and learn how to use it?
Well, the people that gravitate the most towards it and the people that I help the most are high performers that are not able to, and when I say high performers, I'm talking about like doctors, lawyers, engineers, dentists, pharmacists, people who there would be an incredible amount of stigma attached to them walking into an AA meeting. They could lose their practice. They could, no longer be working at the pharmacy because someone's going to find out that they've been popping pills behind it, but they know they have a problem and they can't talk to anybody. And they grasp the holistic portion of this in a way that we're improving mind, body, and soul. And that what you put into your body needs to be improved if you're going to improve your mind. And that being a component of the whole method really is is grasped by those who understand that the body is all these components put together. And so those are the people that gravitate to it just naturally. And then there's a great subset of anyone who just, I think that a lot of people that gravitate towards it that aren't in that group are those that are looking to improve their health. Yeah. And that's what's interesting. It's a health improvement, like in diet and health. And then they may not even have a challenge with their sobriety, but the method itself lends it to just this natural improvement of your body. Of course, I had a challenge, and we haven't even touched on it at all, but I spent a good portion of my life drunk and high all the time, yet operating multiple businesses and having wild success in life. So I was a high functioning individual. So a lot of people, when my first book came out, they were like, hold on a second. You were high during that meeting? Because they read it in my book, and I was like blitzed out of my skull, man.
Oh my goodness. It made me just think of, I don't know if you watched 2.5 Men, but there was an episode where Charlie was being a child entertainer, and he went onto the stage and he was drunk, like completely drunk. And his brother goes to his agent and went, are you concerned that he's not sober? He goes, he's an artist. I would be concerned if he was sober. And that's exactly what it made me think of, how you're saying, like, and it's almost like, what I got kind of intuitively then was that you were working at such a level that your body was dependent on the drugs and the alcohol to allow you to function. Because it becomes so addictive. If you didn't have it, you would fall into that withdrawal pattern, and then you can't keep functioning, right?
Yeah, that's exactly true. And I also was working in a creative field for most of this. I owned companies. I worked in the entertainment business, so I was around it all the time as well. There's a certain just kind of, it was natural, as you just touched on, that you'd start drinking in the morning when you were on a set, and you'd finish up the day with celebration drinks. So, you never stopped drinking. And that's when it really turned on hard, and to the point that it was nearly 24 hours a day worth of drinking is when I was in Los Angeles. And after I left Los Angeles and moved back to the Kansas City area, I operated a printing company. Well, I'm still in a creative realm. And so several of my graphic artists were questioning, well, hold on a second. We just thought you were just super creative that day that happened. Like, no.
My best idea is when I'm high and off my face.
Yeah. It's embarrassing to say, but here's the incredible thing. And I have to tell the rest of that story in a sense, is that as now that I'm sober, I have found that I can lean into that same mind space because I know where it comes from. And I was able to figure that out a couple of years ago by working through the S.O.B.E.R method to figure out where that creative juice comes from. And so I can tap into it at will now. And it used to be the requirement to get to that space in my brain was to get pretty drunk, and then that would like open up and be freeing. And so much of that came from being confident enough within my own skin to show people that side of me, that, the kind of wild and crazy thought, just free flowing ideas. And I never had the confidence to show people that. And so that's why it required all the alcohol to get that kind of smoothed out. So I was okay showing people that, I got this crazy thought and this is what we're going to do here,
Yeah. And it's really interesting because, I've had a few people on the show who I've interviewed, and they like work with psychedelics with their clients or that sort of thing, right? And this is the biggest thing we bring up, is that psychedelics show you what you need to see, but they're not meant to be relied on. It's meant to be just a stepping stone to get where you need to go. Whereas a lot of people create them as a daily practice where it's like they become reliant on the plant medicine, because even drugs are some form of plant medicine, not necessarily a healthy version, but you know what I mean. But it's all about, like you said, it's like bypassing the inhibitions. It's bypassing those feelings that keep you blocked, because it's our conscious that keeps us believing that we can't be that creative, or that we can't do that, or we can't do this. But it's like, actually, no, you're an infinite being. You can do whatever you want.
Yes. And I think that so many of us hold ourselves back. I mean, if you want to see who's holding yourself back, just get up and look in the mirror right now. You are the person holding yourself back from greatness.
Own worst critic. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're your own worst critic. I find what's interesting, there's part of my head that hasn't quite rewired itself, and it is that piece, which is I still compare myself to like the old version of me in my head. And so I'm very critical of the things I do. And then somebody's like, that was unbelievable what you just did. And I'm sitting there ruminating about how horrible it was and how I would improve this and this and this. And then you'll have somebody tell you how it just touched them. You know, you'll get off stage after giving a talk, and then somebody walks up like, that was the most amazing thing. And I'm standing there while they're talking to me going, I should have had that inflection on that piece. You know, it's just really interesting, the mindset that you get, because if you came from that space your whole life in which you had this, I'm worthless, I don't have the capability to do things, and then you suddenly have built yourself to a point that you have the confidence to deliver on these things, you don't lose the reptilian brain portion of yourself that's telling you you're worthless. It doesn't go away right away. It's going away slowly. I do feel that it is, but at the same time, it's there.
Yeah. I like to say you make friends with it, right? Like it's, you know, you're very aware when it starts to come up, and it doesn't have the same crippling effect on you. The more you get to know it, the less it comes up. So, you know, like my biggest one is like self-sabotage and self-doubt. And and it'd be like, and I'm like, especially with what I do, because I do a lot of intuitive work. So I don't always have proof of what comes through. And sometimes I'm like, oh my God, am I telling them the right thing? And I'm like, and then, nope, snap out of it. I can't make this up. You know, this isn't, you know, and it's like, it gets quicker, and it's not there as much anymore. But sometimes I'll sit there after a session where it was like really amazing, like you said. And then I'll be like, did I say the right thing? And then I'm there like intuitively checking, and I'm like, is that right? Is that right? It's like, it's not that. It's not that. Okay, great. Just triple checking, especially because the weight of when you have to share things, you know, sometimes it's like, anyway. But so I fully resonate with what you're talking about. But it gets, like you said, it doesn't, the more you work on it, the more it comes down that it's not as crippling, it's not as life defining anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the other piece of this, because I do a lot of the same type of work in the sense that people are coming to me and I'm trying to help them figure themselves out. I can't figure them out. I'm just helping guide them to the direction of understanding where they're coming from, where their thoughts and where their challenges and their sobriety are coming from. And once they find this, and I would say so far, more than 90% of these things are in a childhood trauma of some type that they push down so deep they don't even know that it exists.
100%.
And once they find it, they're like, they just go. I'm like, okay, there's your dragon, go slay it, because that's your problem right there. You've finally figured it out. And so once you figure out what you're challenged by, it's really easy to attack and then change. But a lot of times you're fishing around in someone else's mind to try to help them ask the right questions of themselves to figure it out. But the best psychiatrist is the one right here. I mean, you're your best person, but you need a guide. And
100%.
I feel like that's what I am a lot of times when I'm coaching people to their sobriety, is that I'm the guide to help them figure out themselves so they can rewire their behavior into a sober life.
Yeah. And that's such a beautiful way of framing it, Massimo, because so often we are our own best teachers, but we can't. My coach said to me, a mirror can't see herself. And I'm like, oh, yes, it's so true. And it's not, and when you're open and vulnerable, it's really easy to be led by somebody. Like, and this is why you have to be careful about who you work with as well. But at the same time, if you're open and ready to change, I get coaching luckily via text. It's so funny. We joke about it all the time.
Oh, really?
Where I'll just say, well, I have access to him all the time, part of the package thing. And I'll just say to him, this is going on in my life. And then he'll go, what, answer these questions. And I'm like, I need to go journal. And I'll go journal and I'll come back and I'm like, this is what's going on. He's like, okay, what about this? You know, and I just need someone to help me piece it all together and ask the right questions, like you said, and be a guide, because we need that guidance sometimes. And we're not designed to do it alone either. Like we're designed to be connected and supported, not knowing every single thing going on in the world, but still, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. But you touched on something that shame on me for not bringing up sooner, is that journaling is a huge component of this. Some of the most interesting things for me have been looking back at journals from when I first became sober, 9, almost 10 years ago, and reading through some of those notes, and the struggles that I was having in my own sobriety and staying sober at that point are so different from today, where I don't even question my ability to stay sober at all. Now all of my journaling is about trying to correct small things in my own personality that I wish were better for the rest of the world when they have to deal with me. That's an entirely different place and level of being, right? I'm not even working on my sobriety anymore. And I think that is fantastic. And that's where I want everyone to be able to get, because once you start reaching that higher plane in your mindset, you're able to let go of a lot more things. Very little bothers me anymore, because I realize so much that I don't have control over those things. And so there's no need to even comment. There's no reason to get emotionally invested. I just let it go. Well, I'm sorry you're going through that. And I hope that you realize that you have no control over that. That's what I say to people sometimes.
Yeah. I often, I learned early on to step out of judgment and start saying, thank you, that is not my journey. I'm grateful that's not my
That's
journey.
a good one.
Thank you, I'm grateful that's not my journey. And then the other one I like to say is, thank you for the good I cannot see. Because sometimes we're in those situations and you're like,
yes,
there's a lesson here and I don't know what it is yet. So I'm just going to give gratitude so we can move on.
Yes, I will journal about this later and reflect upon it.
Exactly.
And I say this a lot to people, is that if you have everything up here and you don't write it down, I don't know what I think about things often until I write them down. And I think that's because it's the commitment to actually something physical. And I think that physically writing with your hand is far stronger commitment than typing it or doing a voice to text in your notes app. It has that connection to your brain in such a way that it commits what you think to an action. And that action is writing it down. And I'll find that often what I'm thinking as I go to journal does not match what I ultimately write down and then read back to myself. I'm like, oh, that's the clarity I was looking for. Because you're searching for things in your head. The journaling cements it into something that you can actually reflect on.
And I love that too, and how you brought up the typing difference. But it was funny, I had a client this afternoon and she said, I actually reread what I'm writing as I'm writing it, and I try and control it. Whereas when she does touch typing, because she's not thinking about it, it's just coming through her, she gets that same effect as writing. So I feel it really depends on your mindset, especially around writing and where you're at. I found that I prefer writing for certain things, but if I know I have to put it into something later, then I prefer typing it. So because I don't want to do it twice, I'm like, no, I'm not doing it twice. But it's any way I feel that you can get it out where you're not using your head, because that's where it comes to. Like, we have to start listening more to our heart, because our heart is, there's so much research, and we could talk about this in a whole other episode. But in saying that, journaling is such a powerful thing. And please, anyone listening, you cannot use AI to go deeper on this. I just want to emphasize that. AI can give you the first question, but it can't keep leading you to those deeper emotions, because it does not know you and it does not know how to lead you to there. And that is why it's still important to have that human connection, because I know a lot of people are going to AI to replace them for therapy for whatever reason, for journaling prompts and that sort of thing. I will tell you right now, the responses you get are only as good as what you put in. And if you don't know what to ask, it's not going to give you the answers that you need or the support and feedback that you need to keep going deeper within yourself.
Thank you for bringing that up. It's really important. And there have been some recent cases of unfortunately, of people using AI. And it's basically, it's an echo chamber. And I've tested this a little bit, because I had a client of mine who said that they were utilizing AI from time to time when they couldn't reach me immediately. And I cautioned that. And then I decided to test it myself. I tested several models, and basically it will confirm back what I'm thinking. It's not very good at doing the critical, well, I'm not sure that that's right. Let's think about this instead. It's not, it's going to confirm your thought. It's not going to offer up a contradictory because that's not how it's designed. And so it's only as good as what you feed it, as you said, only as good as the prompt.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
and don't get me wrong, I use AI for a lot of things, but for that, no. For that, I go to my coach.
your coach is your own personal AI, is the way to look at it, right?
I'm going to tell you a really funny story about that a bit later. But as we start to finish our time together, Massimo, I asked the guests that come on the show, if you could change or heal something in the world, what would it be?
Well, if I could change anything, it would be to eliminate the stigma that we have with addiction and mental health struggles. Because, so many people, they suffer in silence because society labels them as weak or flawed. And, I've seen it firsthand through my own battles with alcohol, cocaine, bipolar disorder, that addiction is really complicated. It's complex. It's an interplay of biology, trauma, environment, diet, as we touched on as well. And, if we could shift that narrative to one of empathy and understanding, I think that the shame and the law, if we could help people without shame, it would lead to stronger communities. And that's why S.O.B.E.R method focuses on building that personal confidence through self-reflection and psychological growth to empower you to rewrite your story without judgment.
Yeah, it's just such an important thing. We like not having judgment. My favorite quote from Ted Lasso, I don't know if you've watched Ted Lasso, but it's be curious, not judgmental. Like I love that quote so much because yeah.
Well, I'll share something personal with you. So I went to Shawnee Mission West High School, class of 93, and Jason Sudeikis' class of 94. I spent a lot of time with Jason before he was the great star that he is today. So
I love that. Look at that. 6 degrees of separation or less, right? So
yeah, you just took it, whatever it was, down to 2.
That's it, right, exactly. And if people want to come and work with you, Massimo, and learn more about your S.O.B.E.R method, where can they find you?
They can find me on my website, SOBERmethod.com, and I'm on all socials. All those links are on my website. I'd really love to find some of you in my Reddit community. I do respond personally to everybody. At this point, I'm still able to do it, and I will do it as long as I can humanly keep up.
Beautiful. I'll make sure to put those details in the show notes for you as well. And thank you, Massimo. This has been the funnest conversation. I've loved every moment. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do. My new book, Pillars for Life, A Guide to Spiritual Ethics and Practice, is now out and available for you to read and purchase. You can check out our website, willowhealing.org, to find a link, or you can find it on Amazon. We look forward to getting your feedback, and if you love it, please leave a review and share with your friends. Now it's time for the show.